Hey guys, welcome back to Sip and Dip with Chelsea. For today's video, I am going to be sharing tips and tricks of how to do dip powder on short, natural nails on your dominant hand. As you can see, I chopped my nails down. I have a big move coming up, so the long nails just weren't cutting it right now, so I went ahead and chopped them down short, and I thought it would be the perfect time to show y'all how I do dip powder on my right hand. I'm kicking it old school on my left hand, and I grabbed some nail polish from Sparkle & Co. This is called Crushed Pink Opal. For dip powder, I'll be playing with Juicy and Burst. These are both from Revel Nails' latest collection launch. I'll also be using Revel Nails dip powder liquids. So some tips and tricks before you even begin to do your nails would be make sure that you eat some sort of snack or meal before you sit down. You could possibly be sitting there for 1 to 2 hours, and I know personally after I wake up, I have some coffee, I am guilty of sitting down and doing my nails on an empty stomach and my hands shake so bad. So before you start, make sure you eat. My next piece of advice would be have bright lights around, whether that be near a window, outside, your ceiling light on, or even purchasing a small desk lamp. It makes such a difference when you can see what you're doing. My last piece of advice would be to do that dominant hand first. So I am right-handed, so if I sit down to do both hands, I would start with my right hand before my eyes are strained, before I've been sitting there for a while and I'm already tired. So now that we've gone through that, I'm just stirring up my powder with a toothpick, and I've got my dry napkin here. I'm gonna show y'all all the things in this video, things that I normally crop out and trim in most of my videos. So I have my Revel Nail Pro Base here, and we're gonna get started. So with my dominant hand, I'm just removing as much excess liquid off of my brush as I can. You can see here I'm just wiping it inside of the bottle. This is about how much I use, and then I switch it over to my left hand, and this is where it has been a game changer for me, is to rest both of my hands on the desk. It helps stabilize my hands, prevent shaking, and then I do like to use a jar to balance my other hand on, and it also allows me to keep my finger pointed down. That helps keep control of the liquid. You can see I'm pointing my nail down and make sure that I don't get it flooding on my skin. So at this point, my brush has the most liquid it's going to have on it. So if I start this brush right at my cuticle area, I run the risk of getting it on my skin. So I like to start my brush about halfway down the nail and then guide it back towards my cuticle area while also having my finger still pointed down. It gives me control over the liquid and helps with gravity. So you'll see here, I just guide the liquid back and then pull the excess down. Some may not agree with what I'm about to say, but until you are comfortable with doing your dominant hand, if you have to leave a gap between your cuticle and your nail area, I know a lot of us want that line to be right up there, hugged tight against the cuticle, but rather than getting the product on your skin, maybe leave a little bit more of a gap, even if it looks overgrown, until you're comfortable. Now, right here, I am showing y'all, I wipe my brush off every single time before putting it back in the bottle. Then I just guide my nail into the dip powder and tap the excess off. I use a toothpick to just run around my cuticle area to make sure I don't have any excess product on my skin and to get a nice crisp, clean line. So following those same steps, I just remove as much excess liquid off of my brush as possible, starting the brush a little bit further down the nail and then guiding it back. After each time it touches my nail, I always make sure to wipe it off on a napkin. I know I don't show it during every video, but I do trim it out so that my videos don't get too long. So you'll see towards the end of this, I do start to trim it out as well, but I think it's important to show y'all all of the steps in this manicure. So layer number 1 of my solid color is done. So now that they're dry, I'm just using a stiff scrub brush to dust off all of the excess powder. So layer number 2, I start in the same way, removing excess liquid. This is about how much is on my brush, and then getting started. So for this step, I like to use my first layer as my guide if I'm happy with it, and I go and make sure I stay right along that same line, hugging my sidewalls without getting the product on my skin, and then wiping off my brush really well so that I don't have any excess powder get back into my liquid bottle. I decided to do a really straightforward, easy manicure on short nails. If you feel like you need more strength, if you want to build up an apex, you absolutely can. At this length and shape on me, I don't really find it to be necessary. I like to stick with my tried and true of 2 dips of color and then 1 dip of clear on top. A lot of times I get asked about how you can speed up the process of doing your dominant hand, and until you practice and build up that confidence, it takes time. So once you start to do it more and more, you will get better and you will get faster. Now it's time to start on burst. So I'm going to show y'all a few different ways that you can go about doing a chunky glitter. So when I'm stabilizing my hand for my thumb, this is the most comfortable position that I find so that I can keep both hands from shaking. I follow the same steps again, and remember, I do have this sped up. So realistically, I move a lot slower than this. So don't feel like you're moving too slow. This is YouTube world and I have the opportunity to speed it up. So here you can see I'm just laying my nail flat on top of the powder. This will give me the most coverage and pigmented glitter look. And I could stop here if I wanted. So I'm just patting down the glitters, making sure everything looks good, getting any excess glitter off of my skin and my sidewall area with a toothpick, and just overall cleaning it up, making sure everything is laying flat. The chunky glitter option number 1 would be to stop here, do some little bit of hand placing if you wanted, but you could absolutely do just 1 layer and add some clear. So now that it's dry, I'm just going to use a different scrub brush for glitter and dust it all off. So option number 2 would be to go in for a full blown chunky glitter look. So we're gonna do another layer of our pro base, making sure to wipe the brush off on the napkin afterwards so we don't get any glitter pieces back into our bottle, and then laying our nail flat on top of the glitter one more time. That will give you the optimum, absolute most glitter coverage look. Then I just tap everything down, making sure all of the pieces are laying flat. So that would be option number 2 if you want that full-blown chunky glitter look and you don't mind the thickness. I'm just showing you here, everything's laying flat, and now we can move on to option number 3. I grabbed a cupcake liner for this next method. So for this one, on our first layer, we're going to pour the powder over top. This is going to help with the thickness and you still get that chunky glitter look, but the first layer won't have so many of the big pieces, which can help cut down on bulk. So I'm just following those same steps, doing my pro base across the entire nail, and then we're going to pour the powder over top. To start, I like to pour some out. It helps get those big pieces out of the way and out of the jar, and then I pour the rest over my nail. You'll notice I didn't really get any big chunky pieces, which is what I wanted. I just wanted the fine little bit of green glitter and shimmer, and you'll see how nice and even. It's very easy to do when you do the pour over method. If you like this look, your second layer can also be a pour over as well, and then just do some hand placing if you like that. I grabbed my brush I was using for my solid colors. I'm just going to dust all of the excess powder off and then dust off the glitter ones. Now I've got my glitter scrub brush and I'm just dusting off all of the excess glitter. With my pro base, I'm doing another full layer on top of this nail. Like I mentioned, if you like that look, you could absolutely pour it over again. But for me, I do like a full-blown glitter moment. So for my second layer, I'm going to lay my nail flat into the powder. This will help alleviate some of that time it would take for me to do some hand placing. And I still get to have that gorgeous glitter look, but now it's not as bulky because my first layer was a pour over. Once it's dry, I scrub off the excess powder, and now I'm going to do some hand placing. So with my base liquid, I'm just going to put it where I'd like to add a little bit more sparkle, and then with my toothpick, I dab it into the wet pro base and pick up the glitters and just place them where I'd like. All right, y'all, that is it for application. We're going to move on to clear encapsulating. So I grabbed Revel's clear, any clear will do, following those same steps. I know it is so repetitive, but just removing as much excess liquid off my brush, doing a thin, even layer across the entire nail, wiping off my brush on the napkin, and then dipping into the clear. So this step is what's going to protect the color and the glitter when I go to file, shape, and buff. I know at the end of the day, we all just want to get better and faster at doing our nails. And with time and with practice, I know we will all get there. What has helped me tremendously is really noticing and paying attention to my body. So, what I mean by that is I noticed I was really having shaky hands when I would sit down on an empty stomach, and really making sure that I am stabilizing both of my hands so that I do have better control over the products. Also, slowing down and not rushing myself. I sit down sometimes and I'm in such a hurry, hashtag mom life, but I've had to get better about that and moving slower so that I don't rush and mess up. Now it's time to activate, so I'm going to apply a very generous layer of this to all of the nails and then wait for 2 minutes for it to harden so I can file and shape. So I grabbed my Macart 100/180 grit. I'm really just using the 180 grit side recently. So I'm gonna go and start with my free edge area. I like to do very short, small strides. So you'll see here, I'm just doing very small motions. That's because I don't wanna overfile or accidentally get my skin. I have better control if I do just little small strides on my free edge. And it doesn't take very much. You'll see here, I'm already pretty much done. And that is it for a short, natural, round nail shape. Now I like to go around my sidewall and my cuticle area. This is just to help cut down on the bulk in that area and to kind of regain a little bit more of a natural arch on my nail. If you notice, I'm also using my right hand and adjusting and pivoting and rolling it too. So I'm using both of my hands during the filing and application process. Don't be afraid to move and use your right hand in tandem with your left hand. It does help because you have better control over your right hand, so don't be afraid to use it right along with it. So once I'm happy with it, then I'm going to start on going across the entire top surface of the nail. This is not to cut down on bulk, it's just to make sure that I have a even surface before I go to buff. Now with my buffing block, I'm just going to smooth the surface of the nail. Alright, so I'm all done with that nail. I'm going to move on to doing the other nails off camera. Once I'm done, I dust off all of the excess powder. Now it's time for our second layer of activator, so I'm applying another generous layer of this to all of the nails and then letting that dry for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes have passed, with a dry napkin, I rub it across the entire top surface and around on my skin just to make sure I don't have any leftover activator residue before doing top coat. So I've grabbed another clean napkin so I can wipe my top coat brush off on it. Here is my top coat bottle. And then I also have grabbed another jar for me to rest my hand on. So the first layer is just a few quick strokes on the nail. So I like to do 3, 1 down the center and then 2 on the sides. It's really important to make sure that you do not get this product on your skin, and then wiping your brush off really well on a napkin, both sides, front and back, before putting it back in the bottle. I follow those same steps for the rest of my nails, just doing 3 quick strokes and then making sure I wipe my brush off before getting more product. After that first layer is dry, then I go in for my second layer. The second layer is more precise, more detailed. You can do more strokes on the nail, and of course, making sure I really cap off my free edge to seal it all in. At the end of the day, what works best for you is always the answer. If it is easier for you to rest your hand flat on a desk, then please do it. If it's easier for you to move slow, then don't feel bad about it. Don't watch the clock. With time, with practice, you will get faster and you will get more comfortable. Don't be afraid to leave a little bit of a gap between where your cuticle and your dip powder nail is. I know it might be frustrating and look a little bit overgrown, but in my opinion, it is better to have a little bit of a gap than it is to get the product on your skin and have a lifting issue. If you plan to do both hands at the same time, definitely start on your dominant hand first before you're tired, before you're already frustrated of sitting there for so long. You will have more patience and you will move slower. And of course, don't forget to fill your tummy before sitting down. We all start from somewhere. You should see some of my manicures from when I got started. They were like marshmallow thick on top of my nails. I had it on my skin. I didn't even know what cuticle oil was. So listen, there is a total glow up with practice and time that happens in this DIY nail world. I hope that you found some of my tips and tricks helpful. They are all things that I have learned from experience of doing things wrong, sitting down on an empty stomach, the shaky hands, the whole thing. So don't be afraid to dive in. Go ahead and get started, and you will do amazing. And thank y'all for hanging out with me today. I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you in the next video.